Discuss and take appropriate action considering a resolution requesting the Texas Legislature to modify Special District Code 1042 Hood County Hospital District to define Hospital District Board as an elected board. Texas AG Opinion KPs-0023 states simultaneous service on the governing body of entities who have taxing authority into the territory that overlaps is prohibited by conflicting loyalties incompatibility. This change will bring Hood County Hospital District in line with the majority of hospital districts across the state of Texas and in compliance with the AG Opinion KP-0023. Now, this is something that was brought in front of the Hood County Commissioners Court last week. And I put it on the hospital district's agenda because this has to do with the hospital district, not the Commissioners Court. Every member of the Commissioners Court is on this hospital board, but the hospital board is the one that needs to deal with whatever the hospital district needs to do, not the Commissioners Court. So it's on here for either bless it, get more information on it, or do away with it. Your call. Anybody has any information to talk about?
Mr. Reeves.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, I kind of disagree with you that it does pertain to both entities. Yes, by the statute of the legislature creating this district, put the commissioners and the judge on this, but they also, from a commissioner's court, have a duty with their constitutional rights and legislation that it's a proven fact that it is a double taxation. And I think that this resolution probably needs to be considered strongly in making this elected board to relieve them the duties of both taxing entities.
Okay, and Richard Hepp?
Thank you, Ms. Massey. I've been attending these hospital district board meetings for approximately the past year, listening and learning about the history and how we got to where we are. And one thing that I recall hearing is that at some time in the past, members of this board said, gee, our money's going to run out, and we're going to have to implement a tax or we could become insolvent. And at the time, there was a proposal to enact a property tax, and that was voted down by the members of the board. And what I recall hearing at the time was it was the elected commissioners who were opposed to a tax at that time. Now, it's not the current commissioners. This stuff happened in the past, but it seems to be part of that conflict that we're talking about. You have two taxing entities, and they're trying to weigh the county taxes versus the hospital district taxes. And like Mr. Reeves, I have to disagree with you. I think it is the business of both bodies. I think that's where the conflict comes in. As the commissioners, they are obligated by law to be here. So that, I think by law, makes it commissioners' business. 3 of the members of the commission court voted in favor of this resolution. I go on record saying that I think the resolution should be approved because I think it would be clearer in today's world of more transparency in government to have a separate hospital district board elected by the citizens of Hood County. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to say? Yes, sir.
Just so you know, I met with Meredith Frazier, who's in Shelby Slauson's office in August, about the same exact thing with changing the structure and see if there would be any interest in her office and then potentially Senator Burwell's office bringing a bill that would change the structure to an elected position type structure. And while they were interested, I sent them a bunch of a lot of that research as far as the opinions. They specifically said, or she specifically said, and I'd be happy to send you the email, that they want to hear specifically from the commissioners before they move forward.
From the commissioners?
It said the county commissioners.
They don't care about the hospital district saying anything?
They wanted it specifically from the commissioners that they were the ones interested in changing the structure. So the resolution that was done in Commissioner's Court was probably the right thing to do based on Ms. Frazier's response to me. And that came from Representative Slauson's chief of staff.
Okay. Dr. Barnes?
So I appreciate the potential conflict, and me researching this briefly, there's 2 ways of structuring the hospital district boards in all the different counties in Texas. There are elected, some are totally elected, some are totally appointed. And, from my standpoint, sometimes simple is better. I kind of favor the idea of the county judge who's elected, by all the constituents. I see that county judge still being on the board makes sense to me, and, I would favor, appointments by, that person. I see the conflicts, and, to me, having the, county judge, appoint a board, whether it's a 6-member, 8-member board in the future, I don't see it's a more, less conflict, rather than having another election, you know, that's just my view.
So you're saying we get rid of the commissioners, we keep the judge, and he or she who puts this 4 civilians, including one physician on right now, would add a few more members, civilians from our county.
Right, 6 or 8 board members in addition to the county judge. Let that person appoint them in a staggered situation. It avoids having repetitive elections. You know, the county judge is elected by all of the citizens of the county, and it makes sense to me that that person ought to be on the hospital district board.
Okay, and that would keep, if we have the members of our board have to go through elections. Elections cost money and advertising, and this board doesn't pay anything for the sheer fun of sitting here.
Well, and I don't think that, I think just basically as a form of governance, elected people setting tax rate is always preferable to somebody appointed setting tax rate. That's where I stand on that, and if you look out across, there are a lot of unpaid positions that are elected, school boards, some city council positions. These positions aren't paid, and the races don't generally end up costing a whole lot of money for those people to run in them. But I think that there needs to be accountability to the voter, to anybody that's setting a tax rate. Let's be perfect.
I don't want a tax either, but, cause I've been in this county 50 years.
I got it.
Yes, sir.
Are you through?
Yeah.
So, I appreciate what you said. I mean, I understand we don't like these pesky elections. But here's my comment to that. At this time, we have a de facto board that's run by the county judge. It's a county judge and he appoints 4 people. And there's 9 members on this board now. So whatever happens is gonna have to be sent to our legislators, and they're gonna have to discuss amongst themselves what form it should, what form there should be. For me, your suggestion would be fine. You get me out of here and that's fine. Because we have, the minority on this court, or this board has no voice anyway. So, but I think that it should be, the idea as far as, and I laid all this out in Commissioner's Court last time under Texas Health and Safety Code, Chapter 61, which laid it out exactly that this board goes unsolvent, the hospital district goes unsolvent, it falls in the county's lap. So trying to build, we call it in the law field, build a Chinese wall, trying to build a Chinese wall between us commissioners on this hospital board and us commissioners sitting in the commissioner's court is a fallacy. So, in my opinion, we send, and there's, I mean, we're not making stuff up here. I've read many of these AG opinions, and the problem is the doctrine of incompatibility. And every one of them come down to the idea, we're not being paid, so that, there's three prongs to incompatibility. One of them's getting paid on two different entities. So we're not getting paid, so that's out. The other one I can't remember, but the third one was being able to tax. And Ken Paxton, John Cornyn, and Greg Abbott, all three of them say that that is a deal killer. How we got this a hospital district, the only one in the state of Texas with this makeup, is a fluke. And I've heard the story, I've heard all kinds of stories about how that happened, and of course you know how Texas can be in the old days. Sometimes it can be Texas in the new days. And supposedly there was a deal with Dolph Briscoe, the former county judge, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I cannot verify that rumor as how it got started in the first place in 1971. But I think it needs to be presented to the legislature, at least our two, this is probably since this is the only county involved, it's probably almost a consent agenda item. If we can convince, or if we can present it to our state senator and our state representative, that here's our problem, what do we do? And maybe that they may come up with something that, they may come up with something else, I don't know.
Well, isn't there a precedent set someplace about this kind of situation where however many counties there are that have hospital districts, how did they put their board together? How did that come together?
Well, every one of them has, like we're 1042, every one of them has their own legislation. And as I went through, and thank you, Dr. Barnes, for your comments. I went through, I spent hours and hours on this. You guys know how I am. And I documented all the different ways. There were a few that were appointed by the Commissioner's Court. I found one that said it was appointed by the Commissioner's Court. Kind of like we do the other boards, like the
That are
historical
subjective to the
commission. Yeah,
the
different
county.
But none of those are taxing entities. But there was kind of a split between whether they were all at large or where there were, like I think I read off several of them in court the other day, but like Hunt County, Hunt Memorial Hospital, population of 100,000, so a little bit more than us, has 8 or 9 members on the board. 1 is at large and 2 from each precinct. Then there's.
But how did they two get, were they elected or were they appointed?
Yes, 2 elected. So all of these, I didn't, like I said, I didn't find but 1 that was appointed, other than us. Everyone else was, elected either at large, all at large, or a mixture of at large and elected either by, they call them single member districts or commissioners precincts. And so, for example, I think I mentioned the one that I attached to our resolution was Titus County, which is a population of around 32,000. It's a 7-member board. All 7 are elected, 3 are at large, and 4, 1 from each commissioner's precinct, and then 1 for each commissioner's precinct, 3 at large, plus the chief of the medical staff of the district's principal hospital serving as a non-voting ex officio manager. I thought that one just like jumped out at me because none of these others that I researched, all of these ones that I researched, have the medical, unless you just happen to have somebody that ran that was a doctor, but that would be kind of a, So I thought that was that's why I mentioned that one. there's so many examples that the staff of Senator Birdwell or the staff of Shelby Slauson could use to just modify 1042, and that's their jobs, that's what they do all the time. In my opinion, it's our position to point out the problem, recommend a solution, but then they are the ones that have to write the legislation and take it. If it's a consent agenda item, that would be awesome. I do disagree with, the option of having the judge and all be appointed, because that doesn't solve the issue with the incompatibility. That puts the judge in the same spot that he's in now, which is presiding or being a part of two different taxing entities, so it makes it smaller, instead of 5 people being in this situation, that we're violating the law, but for this, legislation, it narrows it from 5 people to 1 person, but that's still, that 1 person is still in violation of all these multiple, attorney general opinions that state that this one is very close to us. A board of trustees of an independent school district, such as Laverne Independent School District, is authorized to levy and collect tax, ad valorem tax. So you could, the county and the hospital district, because each of these entities, which you asked about, has taxing authority in territory that overlaps with each simultaneously, with each other, simultaneously serving on the governing body of both entities is prohibited by conflicting loyalties and compatibility. Thus, a person may not serve as a member of the Board of Trustees of Laverne Independent School District while simultaneously serving on the board of the Wilson County Memorial Hospital District. So, your option that you mentioned would still put the judge in conflict with the multiple attorney general opinions, so.
I'm okay with getting rid of all the commissioners.
I'm just trying to be right.
I vote yes. I mean,
I didn't say bump them off, okay?
I'm with you, but.
So we're no longer with you again.
You're no longer needed.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, I know y'all aren't paid for what you do here. And you're just Nanette, Kevin, Dave, Jack. You're not commissioner and, oh my God, commissioner. But over the years, we've not committed any horrible crimes having the commissioners and a judge on this board. Now, I understand why we need to get rid of the commissioners, but I would like to keep the judge and have the judge designate a position and the members of our, anyway, somebody disagreed. To have the judge name the physician and the members of this board to deal with the indigent care, which is all we have to deal with in this county. That's all I have to say. Yes, sir.
So, I think that the mission of this hospital district is larger than that. In '96, yes, they received money and they funded everything to the hospital district for the indigent care. But we're kind of looking like they did in '96 by taking that angle. I think you need to look at what's happening in the next 10, 15, 20 years, the growth of this community and what's coming. I think you have to look at us as EMS. It is healthcare, and it is something that's going to have to be addressed. Regardless of who's here, it's going to
Yeah,
be
the
addressed.
county can address you, the indigent care doesn't have to.
And they could, but if you go away, they gotta address the indigent care too, because legally by the Constitution, it is under them. They punted it to you. It's not in statute for you. So I think that if somebody's going to levy taxes and the issues we had with the last vote, I think the citizens should elect those people that are gonna be speaking for them for that election, whether it's for indigent care or not, because you're running out of money, so, and indigent care is gonna continue to go, so you still have to have money to do that, where are you gonna get it from? So I think that if somebody is representing me for my taxes, I have the commissioners that I elect for my district that does for me. If I live in the city, I have somebody in city council, so I think somebody that is representing me on the hospital district for my taxes should be elected for my precinct or elected body. Nothing against the judge, he's a great guy, I have nothing against the judge. But I do think that having the judge on this district and any commissioner and the taxing ability out of the commissioner court is double jeopardy, and that's the issue I think is gonna happen, and it's the problem.
And I also think anything that is brought towards changing the statute, even though the statute is law, they're going to take into consideration all the Attorney General's opinions before they're rewriting the statute, meaning the doctrine of incompatibility is gonna be an issue with the judge being on the board.
Considering what we're gonna either find out next week or not about monetary coming in for the hospital, my suggestion is to put this off until the February meeting.
Madam Chair, remember, there's a time frame to get the next bill in session, and I think
Yeah.
it's running very close to that.
I'm gonna make a motion that the hospital.
I'm sorry, this young lady had wanted to speak.
What if the judge was a non-voting member?
Exactly.
We can do that.
Would that be, suggestion there, that I'd much rather have somebody appointing people who really want to be on this board and take care of the indigent instead of being elected an official.
And having to pay for the election and the advertising in the newspaper and on the internet, yeah.
Yes,
There's just so many, so much.
I'd much rather have the doctor be a voting member than the judge. I mean, if we're gonna, he needs to be voting because it's his. So, would there be a conflict of interest if the judge was a non-voting member?
That's kind of up to the legislature when they.
I know, but aren't we trying to tell the legislature what we want? Isn't that what this conversation is about? To come together to decide, do we want all elected? Do we want appointed? Do we want 2 from each district? Do we want 5 at large? Do we want a 9-member or a 7-member or a 5-member? Isn't that what we're discussing, to come together, the commissioners court and the hospital board, to tell the legislature
To
what
come
would be
together
best
to be
for our-
divided.
You know?
Yeah.
So that we all come together to tell the legislature that this is what we think would be best for our community? Isn't that what this is?
Well, to some extent,
I mean, not that they actually have to do what we ask, but I mean, can't we tell them what we would prefer?
well, so that's your one opinion, right? And there's an opinion on the resolution here. There's an opinion right here. There's many, many opinions on what this may or may not look like. And my opinion is if it's presented in a general form to to our legislators, here's our issue. Let's see what they come up with.
They need to fix it, it's not something we can fix here.
Yeah, we can sit here all the rest of the day and talk about this, but the bottom line is we need to and getting more money is not gonna fix this problem. That is not the problem we're talking about. Whether we're solvent or not is not fixing this issue. Now, if we go insolvent, then de facto, it's right back in, the county commissioners have it all. And I don't think y'all want that. I'm not hearing that that's, some people have the opinion that we shouldn't, the commissioners should not have it. But we are elected. And if they don't like what we're doing, they can vote us out of there. Which I like the idea of elections, because if you don't like the way somebody's spending my money, then you can pressure them to quit doing it that way or get rid of them. So my opinion, for what it's worth, which not much on this board, is to present a question to our legislators and ask them, what do we do? Or something to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
I'm sorry, Nanette, the judge was saying something.
Yeah.
He just wasn't as loud as,
You know, I don't think any of this personal with me. I wasn't back in 71 or 96, either one on the deal. I just got the job there. But I do defer to some of my appointments. I think they're relatively good here, Mr. Lewis here, and Terry Stanford here. But being that aside, you know, I think that, you know, let the two legislators decide it. I mean, let them go ahead and decide what they think is best to do on it. I don't understand why they did it that way back then, except it's worked well for the last 54 years under the deal, but if they wanna change it to do something, I don't really see the conflict, really, because the voters, like they said, they voted it down, so it wasn't a conflict here between what the commissioners did and what the hospital district did. I mean, the voters are gonna decide what the deal is. In the commissioners court, we decide what the tax rate is gonna be. That's really a deal. If the hospital district decided what the tax rate was gonna be and decided that would be the real conflict that they're talking about. But this board here doesn't decide what the tax rate is gonna be, and that's the way it's gonna be. The voters have to decide, and the voters turned it down the last time. I don't really see the conflict
Well,
here.
That's only
but
one
it's a
time.
change.
Yeah, that
If-
once,
If it did, if another election went into play and it came out the other way, then here we are on two bodies that both tax ad valorem taxes. And that's where the conflict is.
and it's
The
just one
citizens are the
time,
You
ones
could
that voted
resign
that-
from the board.
not according to
No,
the
no.
statute.
Well, I do agree with Commissioner Eagle and other comments that this is not gonna be settled here today. This has gotta be settled, I think, Judge, at the legislature. But one of the interesting things, the question that I had, under law for the county and the county commission, does the county commissioners have the authority to levy a certain percentage of a tax increase without a vote?
We decide the property tax rate, see, we do decide that.
And so
Where-
would the hospital district after, if, let's say November would have gone the other way. Next year, this board would have been setting a rate based on either an increase or decrease from the rate that was.
So had we got this passed at 2 cents, we would have had a decision to make, should it be 2.5 or should it be 1? Or
I don't think
we-
so, I thought that
Yeah,
was in the rate.
I didn't-
No,
Yeah.
Once you have that one election, then it's just like commissioners court, you set the rate every year.
Well, but
It's not just locked in 2 cents.
Maybe I'm not being clear with my question. The question I asked was, as county commissioners, you do have the authority to set, can you have a tax imposed without an election?
Yes.
Yes.
And what would that rate be?
Up to 3.5, I remember.
Up to what?
Up to 3.5.
Plus it accumulates.
Yeah.
We can reach back, what, 1 or 2 years? 3 years.
Yeah.
So we can reach back as well.
So, and.
The cap is 3.5%, but we can
Okay.
reach back 3 years, so that, whatever that
Well,
figures
one
out
of
to
the,
be.
the reason I'm asking the question,
14%.
Dave, is from a standpoint, as a citizen, I would kinda like to know that the Hood County Hospital District Board is not in a position where we can levy a tax versus request a tax by election. That would be a concern that I had if it fell back into Commissioner's Court only, or however it was restructured. If you take the Commissioner's Court out of it, then we would have to request a tax. And what's interesting is 54
Yes,
years
yes.
before this has become an issue, and we're getting ready to renegotiate a lease. And I understand the conflicts. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do what's, I think you're getting ready to say, Nanette, but I'm just at a point where I'm trying to understand how you wanna do the board. Is it an appointed board or is it going to be an elected board? And, again, to Commissioner Egan's point, that's not gonna be resolved here today by any stretch.
So just to correct you a little bit, that if the only reason that we had to go to the voters was because it was over the,
Mathematically undefined,
yes.
as a zero, we can only increase, a special district can increase up 8% over last year's revenue.
so,
Last year's revenues were zero, so.
8% of zero
It becomes
is-
undefined,
So-
so.
so once that, say that the election would have gone the other way, then the hospital district is in the same position that you were just saying the commissioners are. The hospital district can increase taxes up to whatever certain
I see.
percent without a vote, so it would be the exact same thing,
I got you.
and we would be,
Thank you.
And I'm not sure what it would look like, we're just kinda talking here, right? But if it, let's say something happened where it came back to the county. I hope it doesn't, but let's say it did. We have a line item for the library, and we have a line item for roads and bridges, we have a line item for the regular county business. So I don't know if we would have a line item for the hospital district, or we would roll it into the regular. I don't know what that would look like either, but it would be in there somewhere.
It would be there.
And it would be part of our rate within which we have to work no matter what.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I would suspect it would probably need to be a separate line item rather than in general, but, that's yet to be determined.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I agree with you 100% on
probably
that.
just name the indigent care, because the hospital district would cease to exist, it would just be indigent care.
Indigent care is a state requirement, it's a state statute that says you shall, not may, shall provide indigent care. And they also threw in that indigent care, not only the people that are of less monetary means, the jail inmates of the county.
And that's all in Health and Safety Code, Chapter 61, which I laid out in the Commissioner's Court the other day. And, if you wanna go watch, I think you've been there, but if you wanna go see how 61 plays into all this, it's in the last Commissioner's Court.
So beyond indigent care, really what you're talking about funding is EMS.
Which we did start that, well, here we are talking about commissioner court business, so.
True.
The hospital district is supposed to take care of indigents, whether or not they're civilians or jail inmates. And one of my questions is, way back when, and they dumped all of the jail costs on this hospital district. The commissioners did. Now, we pay for all care for any inmate in the jail, whether they're indigent or not. And we pay for the doctor and the nurses and any hospital care and, in my opinion, we should have changed this years ago to just paying for the indigent that were inmates. But that's not the way it has been.
Well, I'm not sure, and again, we're ruminating here, but I'm not sure that you can make it a line of division just because they're in jail. If they're an indigent, they're an indigent.
Yeah, if they're indigent, we pay for them.
So what
But if they're not indigent and they're an inmate, we're paying for them anyway. All the inmates and all the care.
What's interesting about the discussion we're having is that you're in Commissioner's Court, you're looking at trying to provide, I'm guessing, additional monies available for ambulance service and things of that nature. And then as Christy Matt talks about, if you look at our election campaign that we did last year, we were throwing EMS services in there as a part now of the hospital district board. I mean, we were starting to talk about providing the additional funding for that. So whatever needs to get resolved, it needs to be resolved such that it's identified as to exactly what the purpose of the.
I just want the hospital district indigent care, anything else, even if it's ambulance service, that's their problem. The hospital district has indigent care, and that's it. Whether you're a civilian or an inmate, as long as you're a Hood County resident.
Well, I understand that, but that's not what we clarified when we went to.
No, it isn't what we did with it, and it failed.
Hospital district's mission in Texas is to provide healthcare services, particularly to underserved or low income.
Yep.
Not just jelly maintainers, so that healthcare services, it's physician access, it's EMS, it's medication, there's a lot of things that's in that, not just indigent care. We have defined that because that's all you have paid for the last 28 years. But that's not your mission based on the legislature. It's the healthcare services to the low indigent care. 22% of my population that I run on are indigent people. So, I mean, it's more than just the jail inmates and more than just the 60 people that we go through, or 65, whatever it is a month. It's more than that. We just haven't pushed that envelope that far.
Well, and to your point, it's a huge issue this legislative session. Because, you know, I was down at the, back in August, down at the Texas Association of Counties Legislative Conference. And that is a huge, you know, that is bubbled at the top as far as EMS services for rural counties. And, you know, where are we gonna get the money? Because there's some counties that you're, what do they call them, death valleys, or where they're so far away from, you know, being able to get served to a hospital or what have you, that it's bad. I mean, we're pretty good here in Hood County, all things considered.
Right.
But it's an issue that's near and dear in the legislative session this time. And I'm hoping that, you know, they're able to come up with something to help us out on that, rather than just more unfunded mandates laid out to the county. So, but and I agree with you that the hospital district is more than just indigents.
Okay, ambulance deserts or something like that.
And, you know, yeah, ambulance desert or something, I don't know what term of art they come up with, but they always come up with something, you know.
Well, all right. I will, make a motion to, adopt a resolution that the Hood County Hospital District adopts a resolution to send to our legislature to modify the special district code 1042 Hood County Hospital District to define the hospital district board as an elected board, and the rest.
Countywide? I mean, are you suggesting that it be by precinct, or are you
That's
just?
up to the legislature.
Or how about, can I amend your motion? Or other,
Or what?
or other.
Oh, okay, so you're saying to say Hood County Hospital District to define hospital district board as an elected board?
Or other,
Other.
yes. Is that,
Yeah,
is that?
okay, that gives them a broad enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
cause I'd like to, I just want a solution here.
You just want out, I know.
What solution?
Yeah, just, I mean, not, to me, and I don't, you know, Commissioner Eagle's been here a lot longer on this than me, but to me, it's just because of the conflict. I don't like being put in the position where I'm violating what the Attorney General says is, a conflict.
And I'm sorry.
If I was here, I mean, if I was, you know, Terry and Bonnie and all of the,
Yeah.
I mean, you're
And
doing
I'm
great
sorry, but
service.
it's been this way ever since
Yeah.
I got on the board.
Yeah.
And it was this way before,
Mhm.
and nobody ever complained about it, until you.
Well, and, you know, in defense of Commissioner Samuelson, it's partially too because we've hit rock bottom money-wise.
Uh-huh.
We're in a spot where we've gotta do something,
Yes.
and we can't keep our head in the sand, right?
Which is what we're trying to do next
And I
week.
second your motion.
Okay. You made the motion,
And it does include, your amendment,
Or other, yes.
Commissioner? Okay.
Okay, any questions for the next 3 hours?
Absolutely not.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No,
Anybody, who was that? That was a no? Make that 2 no's. Okay,
Is it 7-2?
7-2, it passes, so,
I think so, 2.
I mean. Okay, that one's dealt with. 4.11, discuss and take appropriate action resolution on request of dissolution language. Which I have no idea what's going on right now.
What do you mean? This is to ask the state legislature to amend 1042 with an out clause. If the hospital district runs out of money and there's no way
Oh, to
pay
dissolve
for
it?
indigent care, there needs to be some language in there, some way to trigger that dissolution of the hospital district.
Okay, so you're making a motion,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Again, there's plenty of examples in other special legislation that they can.
Can that be added to the one resolution that you're sending?
Probably, well, it will be.
But if they come up with a solution, it's moved. It's gonna be moved, it's 4.10, the legislature passes something, it will take care of that.
when does it
It's
take
just like
effect?
now, we're not in violation of anything.
No.
We've got special legislation that does not put us in conflict with anything.
But for, yes.
So you're not violating any law, haven't violated any law.
It's a moral conflict. Yeah, it's ethical and moral, yes. So-
Ethical and moral, but it's what the legislature tells us we have to
Forces
do,
us to do,
so.
yes, I get it.
Yeah,
So there-
I don't see any ethical or moral deal, but
and
we're
actually-
following the law.
And the dissolution language.
But if the law changes, I'll follow that law, so.
Yeah, the dissolution language won't be moved because the dissolution language is in all the other statutes that are all elected, and so it does need to be, in my opinion, it needs to be in there whether it's elected, appointed, the way it is. So you made
That
the
just,
motion,
it's that, just in case, yep.
and I seconded it.
Okay, any questions?
I've just got a comment.
Yes, sir.
This doesn't mean this is gonna happen.
No.
It's like can anybody in here think of a contract that they've ever looked at and's gotten into that didn't have some sort of termination language in it, or default language, or what have you? That's all this is an option.
Just bad contracts.
Yeah, so, well, maybe, but so this is just to give this,
Future body.
to give us legislative option, and I don't see that ever, and the judge is correct, we agree on this, that if they come up with the resolution, or, not resolution, but if they come up with legislation in the prior resolution that we just voted on to fix this deal, or make a shot at it, it's still gonna be contingent on being solvent. So, I don't see any problem with at least asking them to throw this in while they're at it. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? And, okay, all in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Right.
Any opposed?
Bodies are trying to get out.
Okay,
You
that
got
passes.
locked in there.
It was a no? Okay, what did you do? You voted yes? Okay, so that's 6-3, right?
Which way?
Who else was a no? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 5-4. Okay, it passed 5-4. Okay,
And so, kind of what do you do now? Do you want me to give you something and you sign it, or do we all sign it? I don't know that we passed a resolution here before.
an attorney?
You got one sitting by you.
Not a government attorney. And a good one. Not a good one. That's why we're hiring a government attorney, we let him do it.
Good deal.
I certainly can't find it out.
Do what?
We have an example we can go by, and I can just give it to you, and you can sign it with the president and secretary. I don't know, what do you think, Dave, or lawyer?
Just get something, I mean, I don't see why you couldn't do something, PDF it and email it to to Brian and, Shelby.
Yeah, but.
So this is what we voted on.
Okay, without any signature on it?
Well, yeah, somebody, the president could send it
Okay.
if she wanted, if she would,
If you will sign it, I will email it.
I may be too sick to sign anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, 4.12, convene into executive session to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. No action taken during executive session. The board will reconvene an open meeting at the end of the closed session. Now, we don't have to go into this closed session unless somebody wants to. Okay, nobody said yes, so
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I second it.
Is there any information on this, brother? I mean, is there any light on this?
On
We're kinda
what?
sitting in the dark here on hospital negotiations.
No, we're gonna have to bring it back if we work out anything, we're not just gonna sign
Okay,
something.
no, I didn't know if you
Yeah.
had
No.
something, you know.
No.
it's
We've
all-
kicked around
just
a lot of
figured
stuff,
out.
but nothing has been, no further negotiations.
All right.
Like if we say something, we'll have to come back and vote on it.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning, get up and leave.
Thank you.